We're wrapping up our discussion here on COVID restrictions, curfews, lockdowns, and all that stuff. Joining me is Dr. Matthew Strauss and Lisa Bildy. Picking up where we left off, again, Canadians, we're a trusting people. We're happy to all be in it together and pitch in if we can help our fellow neighbor, our fellow Canadian. But charter rights, our Canadian Charter of Rights and Freedoms, is not immutable. The onus is on the government to provide justification if they're going to infringe upon those rights. So, Dr. Strauss, maybe I'll start with you. With respect to the curfews, now we've seen this implemented in Quebec recently, where after 8 p.m. you are not allowed anywhere out of your home. You're not allowed to drive down the street in your car. Is that actually going to help curb the COVID virus?
I don't believe so, but one need not listen to me and my beliefs. I think that if, as in clinical medicine, if I'm going to recommend a treatment and if a government is going to recommend an abrogation of our charter rights, there should be top-line, peer-reviewed scientific literature published to show that that's actually going to be effective. So I don't recommend that patients have surgeries that aren't proven to be effective. I don't prescribe them medications that aren't proven to be effective. There is no hard published data to show that curfews save lives from dying of COVID-19. There's also no hard data to show that they don't cost lives from all those other unfortunate things that you mentioned earlier in this program. So I think it's not just unjustifiable; it's frankly unjustified at this point.
Right.
And so I think it's a wrong decision that Quebec instituted that.
So even though, say, we're in an emergency situation, which we have that declared in many provinces in this country, that research might not be able to be published quick enough saying that, yes, curfews work, curfews don't. And is it possible that the government's in a panic situation, they're just reacting, and maybe they just have to choose?
I think it's clear that the government is in a panic situation. I think that 11 months into a pandemic, I would hope for a more thoughtful, scientific approach than panic.
Okay. Lisa, curfews, lockdowns. Recently, Ontario announced that, I don't know, in my opinion, it sounds like some kind of house arrest. You can't leave unless it's an emergency, an essential trip, if it's necessary. But then it's unclear as to what is essential, what isn't essential. We talk about our freedom of mobility rights. We should be allowed to travel. We should be allowed to move between provinces. Some provinces are saying no. How do you feel our mobility rights have deteriorated, and what is the Justice Centre doing about that?
Well, lots of questions there. First of all, yeah, I think these are absolutely contrary to the Charter, and I don't think they're justified. I mean, to put an entire population essentially under house arrest, you're right. That is exactly what it is. We're under house arrest, and we have not committed any crimes. And there are, there are significant and real problems that this government should and can be dealing with. But I think that we're deflecting onto the rest of the population the fault for gross mismanagement, I would say, of this pandemic from the beginning. I mean, you can give them a little bit of a break for the beginning when we were trying to figure out what we were dealing with, but we have had data now for months and months and months. We are still not getting answers to very fundamental questions about even just these cases that we're constantly driven home with every day, that, cases are increasing. We don't know to even what degree these are actual live infection, like they're actual cases. Cases has taken on a different meaning too. These are maybe infections, if they're not false positive.
And there were concerns around the testing as well, like whether it's giving false positives and the quality of testing. And then now lately, and I know we only have 45 seconds left, but the government has announced that you'll need a negative PCR test to re-enter the country as a Canadian. That's alarming to me.
It is alarming, especially because we don't even know if these tests are valid. We're not getting even the data on the how much they're magnifying the residue of the virus that they're finding. And those are questions beyond the scope of 45 seconds, but they're significant questions. And we're not getting the disclosure and data that would, help us make an assessment of whether these policies make any sense. I think that, frankly, they don't. And we are trying to get them into a court. We have 3 actions started out west where we can address some of these concerns and hopefully put the government to the test of proving that its measures are actually justified.
And
I think they'll fail.
And that it's worth the infringement on our rights and freedoms. Listen, thank you very much both for joining me today, and we'll have to check in with you in a little bit.